Has Brandon Aiyuk been traded? No, unless you're watching this after he's been traded. But after the internet rumor that he had been traded, about 45 minutes after that, NFL Network's Mike Garafolo and Tom Pelissero went on television, and they said a lot. We're going to go through it. Mike Pelissero spoke first. Tom Pelissero spoke first. I'm going to go with Garafolo here, who now he says a lot. So you got to figure out like how much of this is really something and how much of this is just a sentence to get, to the next sentence and try to read between the lines. But listen to what he says here.
What seems to be clear is that if and when he is traded, and I would say we're closer to a trade than we are to him staying in San Francisco at this point, he is going to make more than the 49ers offered him. How much more? That might depend on the team that he winds up with, because it sounds like some teams have been a little bit more aggressive than others with regard to the financials. But Aiyuk has a few destinations in mind. One of them was Washington. He made that clear as he made the social media videos that he posted with his buddy Jaden Daniels here. We have not heard Washington and the Commanders bubbling up as of recently, as far as them being one of the top contenders right now. Those other teams that have been mentioned, yeah, they're in play as well. But again, Brandon Aiyuk seems like he is going to be a rich man once he gives the green light and once the 49ers have the trade compensation in place with whatever team they're going to trade him to. Now, look, we've had the Patriots mentioned, we have the Browns mentioned, we have the Steelers mentioned, and again, we've had a return to San Francisco mentioned as well. There are multiple avenues in which this could go. Brandon Aiyuk has a huge say in it, as you just said there, Tom, with regard to the contract part of this, because no team is going to make this trade and give up draft capital and or players and not be sure that they have Brandon Aiyuk locked up for the...
All right, so there's some of Garafolo. I'll play some of Pelissero. I may play Schefter. We'll see how this goes. But there's a lot going on there. Like, some of it is conflicting, right? Some of it is, I think it's more likely than not that he's traded. That's the first thing I played for you there. Some of it is a repeat, some version of the ball's in his court. I thought what was interesting there is he said Washington is not one of the teams we're hearing right now. He didn't mention Pittsburgh. He does mention Pittsburgh, and he mentions New England, and he mentions Cleveland. Now, Cleveland and New England were a couple teams that Matt Maiocco wrote about yesterday, an Amari Cooper trade being one possibility, and then the other being a Kendrick Bourne and a pick with New England. I mean, understand this. None of this is good for the 49ers right now today. If you had told them you are going to lose Brandon Aiyuk in a trade, if you told them that before the draft, they would have traded him before the draft. So no matter what happens, no matter who they get, no matter what they get, they don't want to be here. Okay. And the idea that he has leverage is true to a point, because he has the ability to tell an acquiring team, I'm not going to sign with you. And so that shrinks the pool of potential places he could get sent. The Niners also have the ability to tell a team he wants to go to, we don't like your trade offer. So, hey, Brandon, if your agent's been given clearance, which he has, right? Garafolo says that. The agent has been given clearance to negotiate a deal. Let's say the best deal he can get is from Washington, but the Niners don't like any of Washington's offers. Then we're back at a stalemate. So, yeah, the ball is in his court, quote unquote, is what Schefter said today. Here's what Schefter said on McAfee. And I know people are telling me there's a guy reporting, I think Cam Marino, that he got traded to the Steelers. That's where that started. Pelissero. Oh, actually, let me play Pelissero. This is because Pelissero is reacting directly to that tweet from Monday afternoon.
Well, Mike, it depends if you choose to listen to people who bought blue check marks on social media to pretend that they have information. And then the scam, as they do it, is they take real information, bits and pieces, and then they try to do the fake thing where they say, this is now done, when they're really just guessing and they're hoping, and then they just pretend the 9 things they got wrong didn't actually happen. And then they'll just be like, when they get one right, they're like, oh, look at this over here. So no. There is no trade done to the Pittsburgh Steelers. There is no trade done to any other team. No, the bro hug and the dap the other day does not mean Brandon Aiyuk has agreed to terms on a new contract with the San Francisco 49ers. Well, I can tell you, since this is the Insiders, this is a show that you should trust for accurate information and not whatever somebody's decided to aggregate and misrepresent for their own benefit, is that there certainly have been trade discussions surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. In fact, certain specific other teams have been granted permission from the 49ers to speak with Aiyuk's agent, Ryan Williams, and try to work out a contract that would have to be a part of any deal getting done. Now, that has a couple of effects here. One, of course, is that it allows Aiyuk and his agent to see exactly what the market would be for a contract someplace else. It also does potentially allow them to get closer to finalizing a trade, but we're not there just.
We're not there just yet. Here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like to me he thinks he's getting traded, but doesn't want to give credit to the report that he thinks is just guessing, right? Like, you may end up, what is the saying? A blind squirrel or a broken clock is right twice a day. You might end up at the right conclusion, but that's not what's happening right now. There's been a lot between the Schefter this morning. Here was the Schefter this morning. I guess this is a quick one. Then we can keep talking here.
New England certainly, I'm sure, would love to have a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. But again, it takes two sides to tango. You got to satisfy the 49ers if you're ever going to make a deal, and the player has to be willing to take the contract from your organization. And even though he doesn't have a no-trade clause in his contract, he has an unofficial no-trade clause, Brandon Aiyuk does right now, because if he doesn't want to go to a team, he could
say, I'm not taking a contract. So that was the clip that went around this morning, and some of the quote that went around this morning. I think we all, understand that he can prevent a trade, and the Niners can also resist a trade. But they're in a bad spot. I still think the Niners have the leverage in the sense that, well, actually, I'll give you one whole. They have the leverage in the sense that he's not going to miss games. Like, if push came to shove, he'd end up playing on the fifth-year option this year because there's a point where he just has to play. That said, there is the possibility, we've not talked about this. There is a possibility that the market is so far gone that the Niners look at the market and go, we're not trying to close a $2 million gap here. We think we're trying to close a $7 or an $8 million per year gap here. And we're not even close. And in the end, we're going to lose him next year, which my attitude on that has been, if you're going to lose him next year, you're going to lose him next year, but you're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. And he's going to show up and play. So make him show up and play. He's got to play well because it's a contract year for him, right? This idea that Aiyuk would show up, play on the fifth-year option, but not be at his best or be a malcontent or whatever, that is a very human thing, understandable. But it's any year that he plays without a long-term extension is a contract year for him, understanding that they would trade him next year, and they would trade him to a team who would have to agree to give him an extension. And if he's not producing the way he wants to produce, then he's not going to get the type of extension that he wants to get. So, I mean, that to me is an area where the Niners do have a little more leverage. Now, when the report comes out, the ball is in his court. What's happening? For lack of a better term, maybe there's a little bit of a preempting the blame game. Hey, we don't want to trade him. He's not showing up. It's not because we're not giving him an offer. We don't know what the offer is yet, but what Mayoko wrote last night was this. Aiyuk has expressed interest, blah, blah, blah. All he has to do is accept the 49ers' latest offer, believed to be at least a couple million shy of the $30 million a year threshold. Okay. At this point, the Niners and Aiyuk have some options, and it appears more likely than ever they're willing to trade Aiyuk. It might be up to Aiyuk to determine the next move. So everybody is kind of saying some version of the same thing, which is it's now Brandon's move. And if his agent comes back and says, all right, I've got the Steelers and the Patriots, they both have offers of $31 million on the table. The Browns, they're willing to offer him more. Are you guys willing to do one of these deals? And the Niners say, no, we're not willing to do any of those deals. We're not willing to pay him any, like, in line with any of those. Then the agent has to say, all right, well, then what's your best offer? We'll take your $29 million a year, your $28 million a year, or trade us. And then I was going to go, okay, let's call the Browns, let's call the Steelers, let's call the Patriots, let's see what they're offering. Amari Cooper and a fourth. We don't want to do that. That doesn't sound very good. Kendrick Bourne and a second. Okay. Don't love that. Does that really help us win a championship this year? And then they can either do one of the deals or say, we don't want to do that deal. Play for us on the fifth-year option or take $29 million a year. So it's interesting that everybody's saying the ball's in his court. You know, ultimately, if he gets traded, it's because the Niners are making that decision because the onus is on him to show up and play and make sure that he's able to get to free agency, which he can't do any sooner if he doesn't play this year and holds out the whole year. Rock says, so no news. Everyone is thirsty for this content. Well, the news, to me, the newsy thing that's happening right now is the first thing that I played from Garafolo.
What seems to be clear is that if and when he is traded, and I would say we're closer to a trade than we are to him staying in San Francisco.
That's the newsy thing to me. That quote right there. We're closer to a trade than him staying in San Francisco. Now, you know, it's always darkest before the dawn, as they say. Is this the moment before a trade, or is this a moment before they actually get a contract done? This is part of not being a free agent, is you can't just go to the highest bidder. You can't just go get it done. The other thing Schefter said today was that he does think things are close on Trent Williams. I'm just looking at my NFL update. The 49ers, the 49ers, here's just I beat NFL Network to the aggregation of Garafolo. The 49ers trading star wide receiver seems more likely as contract talks remain stalled, but no deal is currently in place. Garafolo and Pelissero. So there's that. Wanting to play for Washington is contingent on them having the deal for you and them having a deal for the 49ers. And it's weird because the ball being in his court is true if the Niners have said this is our best and final offer, then the ball is in his court. So it makes me think that these guys think the Niners have said this is our best and final offer. Because if they haven't said that, then the ball is still in their court. Dylan says Cooper is a diva and he won't fit in with the team. Yeah, I don't love the fit there, but you can't deny he's been a productive receiver. Once upon a time, one local radio host who was doing a two-man radio show that sounded something like Haberman and Diddlekoff. One of those two people said they thought he had feet that reminded them of Jerry Rice. That was one of those two people. I don't remember which one it was. It could have been Haberman, could have been Bibblecoff. I don't remember which, but once upon a time, that show was very high on Amari Cooper. Sean, comment. The problem is Aiyuk wants his number and a Super Bowl. Does he? Does he want a Super Bowl? Is there a price he's willing to take below his price to play for a good team? Right now, the thing that he wants you to believe is no. There is no price I will take below my asking price. I'm not taking any championship discount, right? Is he taking a best friend discount? A best friend discount, which is a good restaurant in Vegas, at the Park MGM. Is he taking a best friend discount? Are the Commanders going to get him for $29 million a year because he wants to play with Jaden Daniels? Is he taking a Tomlin discount? Doesn't sound, at no point has he mentioned the Patriots, but they keep coming up in these talks, these rumors. At no point has he mentioned the Browns. He hasn't said, send me to New England. Give me the Patriots or give me death. He hasn't said that, but they keep coming up. So like the Patriots are interested. The Browns are interested. He keeps talking about the Steelers and the Commanders. Robbie says, I remember Scary Terry talking about the Niners and saying, I'd love to be a part of something like that. Trade Brandon Aiyuk for Terry McLaurin and a second. Now, what you get for Brandon Aiyuk is fascinating. I'd be pretty surprised if what you get is, a number one type receiver or a 1A receiver and a second round pick. You couldn't get a good first for him around the draft. But now you're going to get a player, you're going to get Amari Cooper and a second, you're going to get Scary Terry and a second. Boy, that seems fair. I mean, it's easy to do that deal. It's easy to trade Aiyuk for the 12th pick. Well, no one's offering the 12th pick. What are we getting offered? Oh, you're getting offered 34. What do you want to do? BA for George Pickens and a third or a fourth. I mean, is George Pickens their type of guy? Wasn't George Pickens... Was there some complaining recently from George Pickens about something? I feel like George Pickens was... Oh, there was just all the footage of George Pickens not playing hard last year. That's what it was. Of Pickens airmailing in blocks. That's not going to work. Trying to win a championship, you're going to get a guy who's got tape circulating about of him just giving up on plays, and you're going to bring him into an organization 3 weeks before the season and expect that thing to go well? That's trouble. Hey, if you're here right now, appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, we are getting into crunch time. And there's going to be some fun stuff coming up. If you want to scan the QR code in the corner, go to heyguy.co. I just saw a picture of what the Hey Guy hat logo is going to look like and the 262 hat. Working on that as well. You get hat updates there. Quick reminder before we get to some more of your comments that I'm brought to you by our sponsor, CIRCA Survivor and CIRCA Million. Both those contests are still taking signups. $16 million in guaranteed prizes. $6 million, the CIRCA Million. $1,000 at entry. You pick 5 games against the spread every week. That'd be a good one to do with some buddies. Or the CIRCA Survivor, $1,000 per entry there. You pick 1 game a week, not against the spread. You can't use the same team twice. That's just survive as long as you can. Try and go undefeated. Last year, 4 winners split $9.2 million. That's $2.3 million each in what was the largest legal football contest in history. So you got CIRCA Survivor. That's $10 million guaranteed to the winner or winners. CIRCA Million. That's $6 million in guaranteed prizes. You got to go to Nevada, Reno, or Vegas to sign up. Enter Nevada. Sign up with a proxy there. Then play from anywhere. For more information, visit circasports.com and click on contest. Circasports.com and click on contest. I'll see if I can find I got a picture from my hat guy Steve today on that logo. Why did Aiyuk tweet PS? Oh God, this is what I don't ever miss about this stuff. Why did he? I don't know what that means. Did that just happen in the last 10 minutes, or is that something old? All right. And then I'm relying on the chat to produce the show when we're live streaming like this. So I don't know what that means. Hugh says, I'm going to need more details on that, Gabriel. Hugh says Niners should have signed or traded him a while ago. Yeah, if he gets traded, the revisionist history, not the revisionist history. Oh, the revisionist history on this. No, not revisionist history. The fair question on this is and will be then, could they have gotten a deal done if they'd moved quicker? It felt like, and I think Aiyuk has basically said this, and John Lynch has basically said this. There felt like a time when they were close to a deal. And then guys got signed, the market changed, the price went up, and suddenly they were much further apart. So if he gets traded, and if you're watching this live, he has not been traded. But if he does get traded, the fair question will be asked of the 49ers, what would it have taken to do this deal 2 months ago? And should you have paid, like, were you willing, let's say what's on the table right now is $28 million. Were you willing to do that deal 2 months ago? Or were you offering him, or 2.5 months ago? Or were you offering him 26 at the time? And he was asking for 29. And you said no. And now you're offering what you could have offered 2 or 3 months ago, and it would have got it done. But it's too late. That'll be a fair question. It is a fair question right now. Digital Drew, is Aiyuk's strategy of getting a new contract severing from some of the locker room continuity? Any sign of this starting to wear and tear on his teammates? No sign that's starting to wear and tear on his teammates. I think the bigger issue is on the field continuity, not off the field continuity. I think the bigger issue is him and Ricky Pearsall out there running routes together. Diamador Lenore and Mooney Ward getting reps against Brandon Aiyuk. As long as Brandon Aiyuk is not on the field, then Diamador Lenore is not getting the best possible number of practice reps that he can get. Just like when Trent Williams is not on the practice field, that's less good practice for Nick Bosa. It was like last year when Nick Bosa wasn't on the practice field, that's less good practice for Trent Williams. I think the real effect for the 49ers is more on the field than off the field. I think they like the guy. They love the guy. Trent Williams isn't there. Nick Bosa missed last year. Deebo Samuel missed a lot of time. This team is very familiar with the business of football affecting football. Kyle Juszczyk the other day, I mentioned this. He wore a Brandon Aiyuk hat when he did an interview last week. So I don't think there's any splintering of the locker room. I think they are, a month away from They play a preseason game this week. Now, Brandon Aiyuk doesn't need to be on the field for their first preseason game, but that just tells you how close the season is. And he's not on the field. We are past the point where Deebo Samuel signed relative to the same relative point in the calendar. So my concern, Drew, is not locker room continuity. It's like you've seen the meme going around the last 24 hours of the 100-meter dash and the small window between first place and fourth place. And so, people have made it a meme like Patrick Mahomes is the first place finisher, Lyles. And then like the Niners are, next up, the Super Bowl, almost this close, but not. The margins are so thin. I watched swimming. Some dude finished fourth out of the medals by a 1/100th of a second. Like winning these championships, football is a scoring sport, not a timing sport. But if it were a timing sport, the Niners have lost 2 Super Bowls to the Chiefs by a couple hundredths of a second. So the margins are really thin. And you don't know which time in the 4 years of practicing swimming you got that 1/100th of a second that won you the gold or left you out of off the medal stand completely. So all these little things, I don't know how to value them, but they add up. They mean something. There's a reason you are practicing. It means you're missing something if you're not practicing. Question, is the Devontae Adams trade pure fiction? Why would the Raiders do that? Yes. God, there's so many more comments I want to get to here. What else we got here? Comment. Aiyuk hasn't traded at all with Brock this whole offseason or during training camp. I don't think he's playing for us at all because these are crucial reps he's missing. It's all gray area, but it's not all or nothing. Meaning, if he comes back tomorrow, I'll go, thank God, now him and Brock can get to work. And we'll look up at the end of the year and he'll have 75 or 80 balls. Probably. James says, I do realize I don't know the numbers, but must the Niners always wait until the preseason to then cave? Deebo, Bosa, Kittle, Aiyuk, add Trent Williams? It's a fair question. Why are we here right now? Why are we here right now? Ayuk's tweets and actions say completely different things. If they couldn't make this happen at the draft, it wasn't going to happen, says Brian. I mean, it felt that way. So the question is, have the 49ers lost hope in doing a deal with him? Or have they liked what they've seen in Ricky Pearsall? Like, if you try to figure out, okay, what's changed since the draft? Have they watched Ricky Pearsall and gone, you know what? He could replace Brandon. We could throw him. He could go catch 65 balls. We'll give Kittle a little more. We'll give Jennings a little more. Aiyuk 75 is going to be Pearsall 65, and we'll be good to go. We love Ricky Pearsall. All right. They could be saying that. Full stop. Here's my take on that. That'd be a little crazy. I like Ricky Pearsall. I think he's got a high floor. Somebody said to me in the YouTube comments of a video the other day, boy, you saying Ricky Pearsall has a high floor sounds a lot like some of the things people say about Brock Purdy. And when it's said about Brock, it's kind of a backhanded compliment. And my response was, you are right. Those two things are actually from the same family. It's not a backhanded compliment when I say it of Ricky Pearsall, but I guess I see how you could see it that way. Like, he's a first round pick guy. You're saying he's not a blue chip first rounder, even though he was drafted in the first round. And yes, that is what I'm saying. So now, did you think that about Aiyuk after the first camp? I don't remember exactly. It was tough. We couldn't see it. It was COVID. But my take on Ricky Pearsall is he's been fine. Part of him being fine is you don't need him to be a number one receiver this year. Like, to me, he's fine if Aiyuk and Debo and Kittle and Jennings and McCaffrey are all getting targets. It's a little less fine if Ayuk's gone, and now there's a lot more pressure on Ricky Pearsall. Comment from Kurt. You don't just give Kittle and Debo more. Those things don't become more productive if people can key on them. I mean, the argument would be that I'm just looking at a tweet here that somebody shared. The argument would be that Pearsall would be productive because he's got other guys that everyone is paying attention to. I'm just pulling up is this a tweet? Here we go. So thank you in the chat to honorary producer Jay Walter. Let's share this here. This is the latest tweet from Mike Garafolo. So he reposted the video. The comment is, Brandon Aiyuk is more likely to be traded than sign an extension with Niners. No trade in place per Garafolo. That's the video I played earlier. Garafolo says, as fluid a situation as I can recall recently, feels like we're getting closer to a resolution with Aiyuk and the Niners, but not there yet. So he doesn't double down on the first part of that, which is the trade part of that, and says it's fluid. My read on this last night and even this morning was this is the Niners putting pressure on Aiyuk, trying to put pressure on Aiyuk and saying, all right, let's see what's out there. We don't like what's out there from the Patriots. Are you getting anything good from the Steelers? That was my read on it last night. It's hard to go through this and not believe that there's a real possibility that he gets traded, which is just crazy. The fact that they are here on August 5th is just wild. Let's see what Matt Barrows, someone in the chat said Matt Barrows has just written. So let's read a little Matt Barrows here from 12 minutes ago. Multiple teams have contacted the Niners with interest in trading for Brandon Aiyuk, but so far nothing's been agreed to. As of a league source told The Athletic on Monday, it's a hot topic, heated up again recently after the end of the second week of camp, no closer to a deal. Over the weekend, the Browns and Patriots were the top suitors, according to multiple reports. These may be unattractive destinations to Aiyuk. I don't know, right? I could see how they would be unattractive destinations to Aiyuk, but maybe just the top dollar would make it attractive. On Monday, the Steelers resurfaced as a possible destination. What does that mean? What that means is not clear. Does that mean that the Steelers called? Does that just mean there was this thing out there, people talking about it? Let's see. That's that. So there's the thank you to the chat. Appreciate when the chat comes through with authentic information. And there is the latest from Matt Barrows. Scanning some of your comments. I'll say this. I do think from watching, one of my takes from watching 49ers practice, and I'll be out there again on Tuesday, I do think Pearsall is going to get open. I think he's going to get open. Not wide ass open, but I think he has the necessary skills for Shanahan to get him open. I think he's going to get open. Part of him being open is who he's on the field with. Spy v. Spy says Adams or Cooper would be awesome, but you get a guy like Aiyuk. If you already have a guy like them, you don't trade them for him. Well, I agree on Adams. You don't trade Adams if you're the Raiders for Aiyuk. The only way that makes any sense is if you're in the situation that the Packers were in which he says, I'm not playing, get me out of here. Then they gave him a contract. Well, he'll need a new one. Amari Cooper, on the other hand, maybe once upon a time, you would say that. Amari is older. Amari's contract, I think, needs a little buffing. Amari's cap it this year is $8 million. That's fantastic. Next year it's 22. Yeah, so he's a free agent. So he's going to want either for Amari, it's kind of attractive. Although if you're Amari, you go, I'll just stay here and catch 80 balls and then be a free agent. How many? Let's go look a little Amari Cooper Football Reference real quick here. And some of you guys may have this already. 72 balls last year in 15 games, 78 balls the year before, 9 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, Amari's catch percentage is low. Amari's looking at it like this is a contract year for him. He would love an extension right now. Probably not going to get it, but he may look at it like, I don't want to go to the Niners. I'm not going to catch as many balls. Cooper is more number one than Aiyuk. Boy, if you said that to me last year, I would have agreed with that wholeheartedly. On the Niners, he could be. The thing with Cooper is you just end up with, I've watched him enough over the course of his career to know that, Spy, you just end up with some snaps from him that you don't end up with from Brandon Aiyuk. Like, Aiyuk just gives you everything all the time. And you just don't get that you get some weird body language from Omari. Where Aiyuk, you get just 100% of everything all the time. Now, some of this is imperfect. If you're like, there is no world in which we're trading him, okay, how can we salvage this and get something for him to try and help us win a championship this year, if that's the way you're looking at it? Then you could definitely do a lot worse right now than Amari Cooper. But, now there's a ton of pressure on Ricky. Like, to me, Ricky Pearsall next to Aiyuk in 2025, a little less pressure. Ricky Pearsall next to Debo. This would, I don't want to say ensure that Debo's back, but you got to get into the top 10 of the draft to get a blue chip wide receiver. They found one in Aiyuk in the mid-20s. They had to trade up to go get him in the 20s. So it'd be really hard to replace him unless you think Pearsall can be that guy. And at this point, it's, I would say, extremely hopeful that he's that guy. So does Cooper then put together the type here that makes you want to extend him when he's going to be 30 years old? And then you're letting Debo walk for Amari? That seems unlikely. If the pressure is on Purdy in 2025 because you paid him and you've already paid Aiyuk, that feels like you're just putting people in positions to succeed more so than putting the pressure on Pearsall all of a sudden because you traded Aiyuk for Amari Cooper and then Cooper's gone after 1 year. Renee says Aiyuk can veto a trade to a team he doesn't want to go to. Makes things interesting. Kinda. I mean, he can say, I don't want to sign that contract with let's just say the Patriots, so I'm not going to the Patriots. Okay. But the Niners can also say, we don't like the offer from the Steelers, and you're under contract with us, so we're not trading you there unless they give us more. So the ball is, quote unquote, in his court per reports, but he's not in total control here. Frank says, Aiyuk is the X-receiver in the Niners system. Amari Cooper would slide into that role seamlessly. My concern with Amari is not like the X and O fit. It's the culture fit. And my concern then becomes about the future. Like, Brandon Aiyuk is the youngest of your core group of skill guys, right? He's younger than Kittle. He's younger than Debo. He's younger than McCaffrey. So of your like all pro or Pro Bowl level skill guys, he's the youngest. So he is most likely, if you're going to pay Brock Purdy whatever you're going to pay him on January 7th per Florio, but if you're going to pay Brock whatever you're going to pay him, the guy that he's going to play most of his career with, or the longest portion of his career with, is Aiyuk. I mean, Ayuk's younger than Juwan Jennings. So of all of the guys, he's the guy that gives you the longest runway to pair with Brock Purdy. Amari is older and a worse blocker. Worse and older. Yeah. Here's Joni comment. I believe we can still compete for Super Bowl without Aiyuk and just put more emphasis on Kittle, Debo, and McCaffrey. I think in order for that to happen, you have to try and replace him with a comparable playmaker. The chunk plays, the trust, the route precision, which Amari would give you some of that too, right? Precision route running with a quarterback that throws with the level of anticipation that Purdy throws with. That's important. That's very important. And that's just hard to replace. So, the catch radius, all of that stuff, the toughness, the blocking, I'll repeat it. All right. So that's where we're at on Monday evening, with everyone kind of getting juiced up like he's about to get traded. I still think there's a lot of reasons for him not to get traded. And that sometimes right before a deal gets done, this is what has to happen. But, you know, as a lot of the insiders are saying he's about to get are like setting themselves up like he's about to get moved. Comment from Murray: if the Niners like ascending players like Jennings, Bell, etc., I wonder if that's factored into willingness to trade him. It is, but none of those guys are ascending enough at Brandon's role. Ronnie Bell is not he's not a part of this discussion in my mind. Ricky Pearsall, way too early for him to be a part of this discussion. You know? So, you know, there's a lot of, if we had this type of guy, or if Ronnie Bell was this type of guy or whatever, but not any evidence right now that you can just plug and play. Now, maybe you look back and go, oh, Ricky Pearsall, what an incredible. It turned out that Ricky Pearsall was right. He got thrown into that moment to kind of take over the Aiyuk role. We didn't know if he'd be able to do it, blah, 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 but he did it. It's possible. By the way, let me see if I can show you guys some of this here real quick. The Hey Guy hats are the Hey Guy hats are in production right now. I just want to show you guys a logo real quick before I get to some more of your comments. Oh, I know what to do. There we go. All right, here we go. This is now I think the 262 hat, this one, like this is the one that I'm expecting you guys to really want. Because the beauty of this hat is it's not, you don't have to know who I am or be a listener of the show. But that said, in order to get it, you know, Brock. But that said, there's also some Hey Guy hats that some of you have asked about. And those are in production right now. I just got a photo from my guy Steve on what that. It's a rubber patch. That looks pretty clean, I would say. Looks pretty good. That's gonna be on the hat. Fired up about that. All right. As soon as Guy logs off, he'll get traded. Well, then I'll be back. Yeah. The old school font? Yeah. I think we got an issue with the gold thread. We're working on the gold thread. It's breaking in the machine, turns out. We got to make some fixes. You know, actually, while I got you guys here, I want to talk about, do I want to do this right now? Nah, we're not going to do this right now. Do I want to do this right now? All right, let's do this right now. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna hang here and talk about a Brock Purdy story, and then we're here. You can give me some more Aiyuk questions, and if something happens, then we'll be here. But let me talk about this real quick, because I got this in my email today. You can go to heyguy.co. QR code is up in the corner if you want to do that. But heyguy.co. You can sign up for hat updates, and you can send me messages. So this is from Sage, who said, in Pro Football Talk today, Mike Florio highlights an interesting nuance of the CBA and rookie deals. In short, it seems as if at the conclusion of the regular season, rookies are eligible for a contract extension. Florio believes the Niners, if they make the playoffs again, that Brock should play hardball with the Niners and get a contract extension done before the first playoff game. Thoughts? And then he adds, or she, Sage adds the relevant PFT snippet. Once again, players on their rookie contract can sign second deals after the conclusion of their third regular season games. It can be done before a playoff game is played. Given what happened to Purdy in the postseason 2 years ago, he has every reason to tell his agent to begin laying the foundation now for a contract to be teed up and signed on Monday, January 7th. And Purdy should be prepared to play hardball with the Niners if they aren't prepared to give him a significant injury security before he takes the field in the playoffs, if the Niners qualify again. I think this would set up very well for the Niners getting a solid deal on Brock Purdy, right? There is almost no chance that Brock Purdy is playing a hardball with a contract extension between week 17 and the start of the playoffs. But there is definitely a chance that he would want to do a deal before the playoffs, and the Niners would want to do a deal before the playoffs. However, doing a deal on January 7th, in my mind, would heavily favor the 49ers and not Brock Purdy. If you're Brock Purdy, everything you do in the playoffs is a way to gain money. And if you're going to get them to do a deal with you before the playoffs begin, that is going to be more likely than not a more team-friendly deal, in my estimation. If you're Brock and you've gotten the team to the playoffs again, your floor is set. Now it's like, you know what? Let me go win the Super Bowl and get an extra. Let me make $65 million. Maybe I'll be the Super Bowl MVP. They won't be able to deny it. So interesting thought by Florio. Insightful for sure. Can count on him to know those rules. But he's writing it like it's like it benefits Purdy to do a deal then. It benefits Purdy to do a deal then if he then gets hurt in the playoffs. But if he doesn't get hurt in the playoffs, I think it would benefit the Niners to do a deal right then. And really, if you're I guess you could want to do a deal as quickly as possible. But if you're the agent, you're like, man, we made it this far. Let's go see if we can go get a Super Bowl MVP or something like that. Let's go win a couple playoff games. All right. So there's that topic. I did appreciate that insight. And I would, January 7th is marked on your calendar now because it's a good thought. His agent should know that. But to me, that a deal done on that day would look like a deal the Niners want to do. What happens if Purdy holds out next year? Yeah, I mean, let's say Aiyuk does get traded here, and the Niners do walk away from the deal when it's all said and done and go, oh my God, this didn't have to happen. If we'd just done a deal 3 months ago, if we had just given our best offer 3 months ago, this wouldn't have happened. Does that benefit Purdy? Does Purdy get a deal done early? Because the Niners, it's easy to say right now, it always works out. It always worked out. It worked out with Bosa. It worked out with all these other guys. It always works out. Didn't work out with DeForest Buckner, but it never became this type of situation with DeForest. But it's easy for them to go, well, yeah, it goes into August, but it always works out. Well, then it doesn't work out, let's say, and Aiyuk gets traded. And the whole thing, this is not what you wanted to have happen. Would that change the way they operate moving forward? Would that change the way they look at Brock next year? Would Brock get a deal done immediately? And so they just don't even have to mess with it. Depends what kind of year he has. But you would hope. Now, I'm not sure that Brock is going to drive as hard a bargain as Bosa and Aiyuk have, or as Trent Williams is. I know everyone is convinced that that's going to happen. I'm not as convinced that he's not going to look at it and go, 60 million? Am I fighting for 65 or am I good with 60? Papa J. So in your opinion, do you think Purdy holds all the cards on this one? Well, quarterbacks tend to hold all of the cards. But if the Niners card is generational wealth, like generational, right? You saw Brock said it at the podium yesterday or over the weekend. He also said it on KNBR last week with Papa and Lund that, he kind of laughed, but yeah, one of the reasons I'm doing all these marketing deals is because I'm living in a certain world now, but financially I need a little more to, travel the way we want to travel, have kind of the privacy that we want to have than the money I'm making allows, right? He's living in the world of guys that make $50 million a year and he's making $1 million a year. And I know it's never a good argument to be like, I'm only making $1 million. No, people aren't going to like that. But I do understand it. So I say that to say, if the Niners say, hey, we're not going to make you the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, but here's $57 million a year, right? Think about that. Like everyone's like, oh, I wouldn't budge for anything under 62, right? That's what people are going to say. But then you're Brock and you're sitting there going, so they're offering me $57 million a year. I know that, people thought I was going to get 60, but 50, they're telling me 57 and, it'll make it easier to keep Debo around, or like we won't have to lose another guy or whatever. I just saw this guy, Kyle Juszczyk, just took a pay cut to stay on this team. 57 is pretty good. So the Niners card is that the guy they're going to be negotiating with was the last pick of the draft and has been making, we're talking about a 50th potentially in annual salaries, what you might have on the table in front of him. And just wants to play ball, just loves ball. He may view $57 million as good enough. He may. I think it's a possibility that he does. We'll see. Harry, 2 R's, says that Purdy's worth more to the Niners with Kyle Shanahan than any other team. I don't think another team would offer $50 million a year. Well, just like with Brandon Aiyuk, although it's gotten to a different place with Brandon Aiyuk, what another team would offer when you're not a free agent, can be a little bit of a nebulous argument. Oh, we think we can get this. All right, let's go see what you can get, which is what's happening with Aiyuk right now. There's enough kind of Shanahan guys out there. Tua I didn't think Tua would get that much money, but he did. I've said this a few times. You don't have to bookmark this one, but I'm more optimistic than most people that Purdy's not holding out for the top dollar amount and that there's a world where a little bit under the top value is still a deal that he's willing to do. Al asked, guy, do you sell those 262 hats? Working on it. We'll get those up soon. Hawk Tua just got $55 million. Brock is better. I agree. Purdy has all the instincts, anticipation, and skills to play in any system, period. Comment on Aiyuk. This is going on too long. There's no way I'm paying you $30 million a year for a guy who is number 3 or number 4 option in my offense. Trade him to Washington for McLaurin. He wanted to play for the Niners. I mean, I don't think he's a number 3 or number 4 option. I think that's denigrating Aiyuk too much. Something I have not said here. I'm supposed to be able to fave some of your comments, and then I can go back to them. But I lost it. Somebody asked what my first college football game is. I'll tell you my first 3 college football games. I've not shared that yet on Big Ten Network. August 31st, Idaho at Oregon. This is breaking news for you guys. Idaho at Oregon. That's the game I'll be calling on August 31st. Week 2 of the college football season, Utah State at USC. And week 3 of the college football season, I'll be at Nebraska. So week 1, I'll be at Oregon. Week 2, I'll be at USC. And week 3, I'll be calling the Nebraska game. All of those games on the Big Ten Network. All right. I think that's it. Go Ducks. Okay. That's that for this. We'll see what happens. Appreciate y'all. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And